Should you buy real estate in high crime areas? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode, so stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm back. It's Jesse Wright with YouCouldBe.com, and in today's video we're going to talk about investing in real estate in high crime areas. So a couple things. First of all, if you're watching this video, if you regularly watch my channel, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you're not a conventional person. You're not looking for conventional wisdom because you know conventional wisdom only gets you conventional results. I'm going to guess that you're an extraordinary person. You're researching extraordinary methods of doing extraordinary things, and that's what this channel is all about. So, couple of years back, there was a pretty decent television show on A&E, and it was called Turn, and it was set during the time period of the Revolutionary War, and the geography was set out in such a way that you had the British territory over here, you had the colonist territory over here, and right in the middle you had neutral territory. Where do you guys think all of the money was made? It was made in the neutral territory. It was the smugglers running back and forth between these two places, charging high prices for everything that they were bringing across the borders. That's because everybody was scared to go into the neutral territory and do what these people were doing. So when I buy property, I don't necessarily usually buy right in the heart of a high crime neighborhood, but I also don't buy right in the heart of an expensive, affluent neighborhood. What I want to do is I want to purchase a property close enough to a high crime area or a depressed area that I can benefit from the low investment, purchase price. So I'm getting a house for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, but I'm able to rent it out very close to the same prices that I would if I were renting a house out in the affluent areas. So that's kind of, that's one. That's the first thing that you need to keep in mind. The next thing that you need to keep in mind is that we make money off of the misconceptions of others. There's always going to be a bias against people of a certain race. There's also always going to be bigots. There's always going to be people that think they're better than, so on and so forth. And while it sucks that those people are out there, we make a lot of money off their stupidity. When I bought my very first property, people literally laughed at me. They told me that it was a terrible idea to buy a house in this area, but I did my research, and this house has never gone for more than a day or two without being rented out. When I first was rehabbing it and doing all the work, it was rented out before the rehab was ever done. I got a tenant that stayed in it for a very long time, and when they finally left and I had to rent it out a second time, I literally had families in the front yard arguing over who was going to get to sign the lease. And unfortunately, just last week, I had to give the tenant of that property an eviction notice. And as she was moving out, before her 3 days were up, as she was moving out, before I'd put a single sign in the yard, before I'd put any kind of ad out, and before I'd even told anybody that I was about to put this house back on the market for rent, I was already getting phone calls from people that were driving by, saw her moving out, asked her for my number, and they called me up and asked me if they could rent the house out before they'd seen the inside or anything. So if you do this right and you ignore all of the people that think they know what they're talking about, and you're careful, you can make a lot of money by carefully buying property in the right area. My most profitable property that I ever bought makes me about 50% of my initial investment every single year. And it is in an area where the murder rate is 9 times the national average. And before I learned to secure this property properly, it was broken into 2 or 3 times. But after I learned how to secure it, and after I learned to ward off people that would break into it, you know, it hasn't been broken into since. It's been years since that property has been broken into. All right, so I got a property pulled up in Toledo, Ohio. I've also got the Trulia crime rate pulled up as well. You can see it's right here in the heart of a pretty high crime area. And I'm not going to say that I would definitely buy this property, because I would need to actually walk the streets. I need to talk to the neighbors. I need to, you know, see the property in person. But I'm just going to show you some of the things that I look at, some of the things that I think about, both before I've looked at a property and after I've looked at a property. So the first thing that I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm going to take a look at it, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be able to get my money back quickly, providing everything else goes according to plan. So I'm going to take a look at the property, see how much work is needed in order to get it fixed up. What are my appliances going to cost? You know, how much work is it going to take? Is there foundation trouble? Stuff like this is very easy to fix. If you got you know, holes in the drywall, that's a matter of a simple patch and putting some paint on. Am I going to need to replace the floors? So on and so forth. So I've already looked at this a little bit before I started making this video, and if this house were to pass all of the tests that I would give it when I actually inspected it, then it would probably cost me $4,000 to $5,000 to get it fixed up. You know, and if it was going to cost more than that, I probably wouldn't buy it. It's listed for $18,000. I would probably try to get it for around $14,500, something like that. And I might go a little higher. I might go a little, but it's probably going to be $14,500. The property taxes are only $411. And let's just take a look at the rent. You can see right here, Fannie Mae says the median rent is $695. The high rent is $765. That is from this rent range report right here. You can see that the radius search was a mile in any direction. They have 28 comparables that they're you know, pulling that data from. You can also see that Section 8 is quite a bit higher than all of these figures. So that's a good sign. I'm going to go over here to Rentometer. The information is pretty close to what we see over at Rent Range. This is with a 1 mile search radius as well. But I want you to notice something. If I change that search radius to 1.5 miles, what happens when I analyze this a second time? Whoa, jumps way up. Average rent is now $957 a month. So, and you know, if I were to go up again, I don't know if that would negatively or positively impact it because I haven't checked. Goes back down. So what does that tell me? That tells me that somewhere nearby there is a neighborhood where houses are going for a lot more money. This might be what I would call a fringe property. I'm not sure. Again, I'd have to walk the streets. I'd have to drive around. Something that I do in every single area before I buy a property. I'm going to spend a lot of time in that neighborhood. So the next thing that I would do in my internet property analysis is I would pull open Google Streets and I would take a good look at the area, you know, and I'd spend a little time just navigating around in here. I'm not going to buy a house if it's right next to a gas station, for instance. I'm not going to buy a house if there's a ton of vacant properties on that same street within a block or two usually. So I'm just going to do a little bit of, you know, research online before I really get too far into it. So a couple of other things that I think about when I'm actually going to inspect the property. Is it on a main street? If it's on a main street, especially if that street is well lit and there's a lot of traffic, you know, that benefits me for two reasons. One, people are going to see my signs when I stick them in the yards, and so it's going to be a lot easier to get that house rented out. And also, because it's on a main street, there's a good chance, you know, people don't like to do things out in the open. They don't like to break into a house when there's a bunch of lights shining on them, and it's going to be easy for other people to see what they're doing. Something else that I look for is how easy is this house going to be to protect? Does it already have bars on the windows? Does it need bars on the windows? What does the lighting look like? Kind of, you know, we kind of hit on that a minute ago. Is it fenced in? If it's fenced in, that's a huge plus. The opposite of that would be, is there a path going from the front yard through the backyard to the street behind it? That's a negative. That's something that you don't want when you're buying a house. All right, guys, so the bottom line is, yes, you can make a lot of money by investing in higher crime areas if you're careful, if you use your head, and if you know what you're doing. Now, for this particular property, I'm not sure that I would buy it. It would have to pass all of my tests. I would have to know that I was only going to have to spend a certain amount of money on repairs for the property, and I'd have to get it for the amount that I was looking for. So if we do the numbers here, I know for sure, or I'm fairly certain that I could rent this property out on Section 8 for $800 a month. But my property taxes are going to be $30 a month, and my homeowner's insurance is going to be $75 a month. It'll probably be a little less than that because I'm not going to get a super beefed up plan. But still, we're going to go with those numbers for the purposes of this video. That's $105. So $105 minus 800, or 800 minus 105 is $695 a month times 12, right? That's $8,340. Now, I'm going to say that I want to set aside $1,600 for, you know, unexpected vacancies and you know, unexpected expenses. So we're going to take out $1,600 from that total. That gives us $6,740 in profit every year, and I want to be able to make my money back in 2.5 years because I want a 40% return on my money. So if I multiply that number by 2.5, that tells me that I can spend no more than $16,850 all in. That's including the rehab for this property, which means that if I'm buying that property for $14,500, which is just a hair above 80% asking price, then that leaves me only $2,300 or $2,350 for all of my repairs. So it's unlikely, but it's possible. I would have to actually see the property to let you know for sure. But that is going to be it for the rest of this video, guys. If you want to see more videos like this, or if you want to see, you know, if you have a particular question, leave a comment for me and let me know what you want me to talk about, and I'd be happy to make a video about it. And as always, please like and subscribe if you found this video useful. I will see you guys in the next video.